Hey YouTube, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and I am here with Judd McClanahan. I'm actually in his facility, which this is my first time ever being here, and you have an awesome place.
Thank you.
He's got a lot of cool stuff that I don't have, that I've never seen, so rather than show you his ball pythons, which are pretty awesome, we thought we'd show you something different today. And so you've got some corn snake projects that are out of this world. As a matter of fact, the end result only here in Kansas and in Florida right now, correct?
So far.
So just basically two people, your group, and then the guy in Florida that ever produced what you're going to show here today.
Absolutely.
So why don't you start us kind of working through some of the things that make this, and we'll see the end result.
Okay, well, the palmetto is a corn snake that was originally from the wild. And they're a white snake with speckles. And it was found probably 12 years ago and then proved to be genetic. So they have varying degrees of speckles on them, but they're born with not very many speckles. And as they age, they develop them. So they're pretty faint in this one.
It's almost like a cow retic as far as developing color, but obviously
Pretty
different
much so,
colors.
right.
Yeah. Are you able to see through it?
Not as much on this one.
Not
You'll
so
find-
much
well,
on that
some
one.
of them you can though, so we'll find one that can. Anyway, and then the Scaleless is another one of my very favorite genes. And these are a scaleless corn snake. Many varieties of these.
And Scaleless corn snakes, now they've been around for quite a
They've
while,
been around
correct?
for quite some time. 10 years plus.
And in the Kluber world with your Scaleless corns and kings, that's really where a lot of the Scaleless stuff really got running.
Right.
Hot and heavy in the snake world. This predate ball pythons being Scaleless.
Right.
And I think we've seen some Scaleless berms in some places, and these came before that as well, correct?
They did. These were way before any of the pythons. But, I mean, their colors and their patterns are just, I think, unbelievable for what we have compared to the wild, compared to the other ones. It's a considerable difference between a scaled and a non-scaled snake. Just
So
the way it alters the patterns,
It really cleans the colors up and
it
everything.
really does.
And now with that too, what about the belly? Are the scales true full scales, or do we
They-
have belly scales?
They have belly scales, but they're almost always divided in half, sometimes in thirds.
Okay, I didn't know about the thirds. That's kind of
You
cool.
can almost always see a division line between the belly scales. But I have seen them in thirds.
Now, see, we got a chance to work with a scaleless rattlesnake a lot, and it had the same thing. It did have the belly scales.
I think belly scales are a must for locomotion purposes.
Yeah, it definitely helps them get around. Now, I think with some of the pythons, I don't think they're even having that, though, are they?
I don't think any of the ball pythons have.
I've seen them.
They
You
are
can see
totally
that
scaleless.
almost like a scar running down them. So there are some differences in the way that the genes are working.
Right.
But then, so you've seen the palmetto, we've seen the scaleless.
So we combined the two to make the scaleless palmetto, and it's been a pretty tough one to come up with.
There it is.
There it is.
He was hiding on us.
That moment of, where'd he go?
So this is the scaleless palmetto, and there was quite a bit of speculation in the years waiting for someone to produce these. They didn't know if they would have any pigment. Well, as you can see, this one he was born with the big blotch, and all the other ones have come in and over the last 3 sheds. He's shed 3 times, and he's about a month and a half old, so he's eaten quite a bit. So
Now, how long does the color continue to come in on them too?
about a year. After about a year, you have what you're going to get.
So for the next year, you're going to see more orange spots.
There
The
should be
snake's gonna
considerably
change.
more spots and considerably, I hope, brighter spots.
That is really cool. And now,
And this one is
Okay.
very transparent. You can actually see organs. You can see feces.
it's a good way to know if your snake's impacted.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Is it showing up on the camera?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
So you were one of the very first to hatch these out, or from anybody.
There we go.
And this isn't the
Yeah.
first time you've hatched some of the first type of stuff that's been captive bred, because you've been working with corns now for a long time.
A long
right?
time, but not in big numbers.
Right. But you got the corns, and you also the rough scales we saw last time we
Rough
talked to in
scales.
Manhattan. That was a first, if I remember correctly.
It was.
So there's a lot of things. It's not like to me, this is a lot different, especially those rough scales and, doing a world's first ball python. Everybody's done ball pythons, everybody's done world's first. But it's just like, well, I put these 3 genes together. I was the first one to do it. But that was the first thing ever produced in captivity, the rough scales.
One other guy did it.
No, did he?
One other guy did them. That's where we got them all from, because they all came originally from the Reptile Gardens, and he purchased a lot of. He purchased the young ones. He did Casey Lacey.
What's that?
Casey Lacey is the one who did the first ones.
Casey Lacey. Okay.
This is an albino palmetto, so all of its speckles are going to be orange. There are so many different color morphs of corn snakes. Caramel corn snakes have a caramel colored spot.
Okay.
Ultramel is very similar, and it has that spot. Anerythristics have more brown earth tone spots, so you can combine the other color morphs as well with the palmetto. Snow, they show up very faint, but they're yellow.
Because these things blew up before ball pythons ever did. The corn snake market was one of the original.
Corn snakes have been around for a long time. So.
And they're also North American, correct?
Right.
So this is native to the United States in the wild type form. I guess in the morph type form too, it would be native, but this is kind of a United States type captive breeding project.
But the original palmetto, I'm going to grab my normal palmetto. The original palmetto was found in South Carolina.
Okay.
And not knowing if it would be genetic or not, it was purchased by a good friend of mine who was a corn snake breeder, and he took a gamble on it being genetic. And that's how we became familiar with the palmettos. But this is a normal, it's totally normal, but it's het for albino and several other different morphs.
And are most of the genes in corns, and I'm not overly familiar with the corn genetics, but aren't most of them recessive?
Most colubrid morphs are recessive, whereas a lot of your ball python genes have been dominant or co-dominant.
So with them being co-dominant on the ball pythons, you can breed and get 2 different genes. Here, you end up with having to breed 2 hets to get that. And then a lot of times you'll have other hets running around in there. So you start getting these crazy combos that pop up, I would imagine, because people don't always say what it's actually het for.
I'll let you hold this and kind of in the very beginning, when I started the whole project. I bred the palmetto to a Scaleless.
Okay.
This is the Scaleless that I use to make the
The
double
orange
hats.
is just amazing on these.
I'll let you hold this one too.
And you know what? I wish you guys could feel what it's like to actually hold a scale. So if you never have felt that, you really should sometime. And I don't think it really matters what species it is, just the feeling of the skin and not the scales. It's just a totally different feeling when it's in your hand. It's smooth is the best way to say it.
Feels like leopard gecko tail.
Yeah, that would be it's a better comparison than the ones I've made before to people.
Anyway, this is the result. This is one of the offspring from these 2. So it looks normal,
Right.
but it's carrying both genes. It's carrying genes for Scaleless as well as the gene for palmetto.
So that would be the double het,
It'd be
right?
double hets.
And if you bred that double het to another double het, you could get Scaleless, you could get palmetto.
We got
Scaleless
a
palmetto.
variety of everything.
Yeah.
We had Scaleless, we had palmetto, one Scaleless palmetto, and a whole variety of other morphs, albinos and everything.
So it's not uncommon then for a corn snake to be running around with 4 or 5 hets in it.
Oh, absolutely not. It's more unusual to find a corn snake with minimal hets, few hets.
Yeah, especially they've been captive bred.
Absolutely. They've been bred for so many years and so many different projects, and a lot of them are just sold as corn snakes.
So what that means, if you want to get in a kind of a trial and error breeding project, and you can end up with all 3 of these in a minute. Woo, where are you going, buddy? There you are. Don't want to drop you. You can just go get yourself a couple, 2 or 3 corn snakes, and you can pair these in groups too, right? With like 1 female and a couple males.
Right.
So you could get you 3 or 4 males and a couple females and
have
just start throwing them together.
And it would be a box of chocolates.
Yeah. So we call it the Forrest Gump method of breeding. But give it a shot, see what you get. I mean, that would be kind of neat to do because you may end up, well, you probably won't hit a scaleless palmetto, but who knows, you might. These guys back. I guess this one's the one you're after. This one goes over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some twist guys. There we go. So it's kind of an interesting thing where with the ball pythons, you're not going to be able to necessarily do that. Because I talk about using multiple males, Kluber's a lot of them, and again, he'll correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not a corn expert. You can breed them with multiple males at the same time in a group. Like garter snakes will breed in a group in a ball. And I think you can do that with these. Couldn't you keep two males and a female?
It's just harder to keep track your genetics.
Right. That would be your true box of chocolate. But you wouldn't know what dad is at for what then.
This little guy, I'm going to switch sides with it. This guy is half scaleless.
So what's causing that? Is that going to be?
I think it's all your scaleless corn snakes have a few scales. Sometimes it's usually like 4 on the face. I think this is a very heavily scaled scaleless.
Okay. So you think that would produce straight skin? I can see the split in the belly.
Down the sides are scaleless. The side of the face is scaleless. So it is a scaleless corn snake.
Okay. See, I was almost wondering if it wasn't something like where you've got like a, I don't want to say, drawing a blank. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Where you had a twin, and
I think this is a heavily scaled scaleless.
looking at it, I bet you're
I think
absolutely
that's
right.
what I'd have to say it is.
Because usually in the chimera it's going to be one spot or one place. This is kind of all through it. You're seeing that kind of come up.
I think it's just varying degrees of scales.
That's
This
kinda neat.
has more.
Because even down here on the tail, there's spots that are scaleless. And
There's some on the sides too. I see more now that it's getting older.
that is awesome.
That's very interesting.
Well, that is really cool. Anything you want to add about corns before we wrap the corn snake up?
Really?
Not really?
I just got back to it.
Yeah. I'll pull some on my leg with my own snake.
No, not really. I can't think of any other cool corn snake worms. As the scaleless also have multiple genes. Also, we've got the albinos, and there's Anerythristic. The Anerythristic corn snakes, which are lacking the red pigment.
This thing's so cool. You can really see that right there. Couldn't read this. Had to touch it right here on the side.
Yeah, I wanted to feel the scale and the non-scale at the same time.
This is the Anerythristic scaleless, which is similar to the axanthics and the pythons.
Yeah. It's just lacking the red pigment, not so much the yellow, but the red pigment definitely being gone.
And then when you're lacking red and the yellow, the albino and this would make the snow, which is lacking everything.
It's awesome.
But not true, it's not a cystic, it's just a true albino. It's just void of all dark pigments.
They're running around like a crazy man. Corns do, bump the camera. Corns do move a lot more than ball pythons.
They're much squirmier, yes.
But they are not known as biters. They're very sweet snakes. They don't typically bite at all. Say that and you're eyeballing me. And they don't have much of a mouth that they do. So there's, even though they're squirming around, you got nothing to worry about with a corn snake. All right, question girl, any questions?
No, I already asked him.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. We'll hop off here, put this one up, and then we're going to show you something else really cool in the facility.